name's Rachel. I'm a junior/senior in environmental conservation and society with a focus in environmental education. I love my room very much. Actually, I found those two pieces at Goodwill recently, which I fell in love with. You know, I'm a real person. I'm a little messy. So I just like making things a lot. So I'll collage, I'll make earrings, I knit a lot. I love knitting. That's in progress. So it doesn't look too good right now. You know, kind of got to the point in the last few years where I'm like, it doesn't matter what my art looks like as long as I enjoy doing it. I love her dearly. What are you messing with? What do we got going on over here, ma'am? Do you want me to talk about my story a little bit?
Yeah.
And how little do you want?
As much detail as you want to give.
Okay, fantastic. So when I was in high school, I started drinking like everybody else did. Was able to handle it, had a good, fair time. And then I came to college whenever I was 17 and started partying a lot, doing all that stuff. And I realized that it helped make me a lot more social. Yeah, I'd say January of 2020 is when my drinking really started to ramp up. I was in an abusive relationship and a lot of alcohol was involved in that, and it would help me kind of escape from whatever was going on there, tolerate what was going on there. And then COVID hit, and that's when my drinking really took a turn for the worst. And I was in a really, really bad mental place, and so I turned to alcohol again. That turned into me blacking out every night basically, in my room alone, and I was able to manage it to only be drinking in the evenings or whenever I went to bed or something like that. But that's when I realized, not necessarily realized, but that's when I kind of got an inkling that I could be on the cusp of developing a drinking disorder. So I ended up taking that fall off to quote unquote work on myself when I was actually just drinking day in and day out. And I started to have really bad withdrawal symptoms. There's one really bad day when I was kind of trying to take a day off of drinking and get kind of sober. And we were having a picnic or something like that. And every 5 minutes I would have to get up and run into the woods and throw up. And I was shaking and I was sweating and I was dizzy. And that moment I was like, this is really scary. I'm having these symptoms that I know are textbook for alcohol withdrawal. And I got it in the back of my mind that I did have a drinking problem, but I had heard in meetings and from other people and just reading about it, most people have a moment where they're the defining okay, I need to get sober. And I hadn't had a moment yet, so I was like, okay, I don't think I actually have an issue until I have that moment. And I ended up having my moment. That was the really big defining factor. I used to DoorDash, I used to drive, and I used to hail myself as being a really good intoxicated driver, which is heinous. It's a terrible thing that I used to do, and thank God nobody ever got hurt from it, and it's definitely not something I'm proud of to this moment. But one night I was out and I was drunk, and I was looking at my phone, and I had gone over the white line a few times, and the cops had pulled me over. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, I'm about to get a DUI, I'm about to get arrested right now. And it was still during COVID times, so I was able to put on my mask and grab my license registration, turn on my lights, so I was able to bring myself to the moment as fast as I could. I came up with some bullshit excuse. I was I was looking at my phone, I'm kind of lost, I was trying to find directions from somewhere. I know I went over the white line a few times, I apologize. And he bought it. He was totally fine, sorry to bother you, it's just precautionary. Sometimes that means the person's intoxicated. And then he gave me directions to wherever I'd made up that I needed to go. And then he left. And after that, I was spinning the entire time. And after he like pulled off, I just sat in my car and I was just like sobbing. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I should have gotten arrested. I should have, gotten a DUI. And then it was that moment I was like, I need to get help. I need to stop the path that I'm on because this is about to get really bad. So I remember I drove home that night, drank myself into oblivion because I was just so ashamed. And in the subsequent weeks, I started to attempt to get sober, attending meetings every now and then, still drinking on the side. And then eventually, you know, just took that like momentum from like the few meetings that I went to, and like I told my parents that I had a problem and I got their support. And then in January of 2021 was when I had my last drink. And so after all of that, I've been sober since January 31st of 2021. So there's like a bunch of different ones for like, most of these are like my monthly chips, like 4 months, 5 months. So at like every meeting, once you hit a milestone, they're like, oh, does anyone have any anniversaries coming up? And if you let them know, like, I'm at 2 months, they give you a little chip and everyone celebrates you. There's like a saying in AA where it's like 90 and 90. So like 90 meetings in your first 90 days of sobriety. And it's like once you get past like the 3-month mark, you're usually like good, quote unquote. And I'm a big visual learner. So whenever I first got sober, I made this poster. So it was like the highway to 90 days, like my first 90 meetings and 90 days of sobriety. And so every day I'd cross it off. And now that I'm like 2 years down, I still keep it up there as a little reminder. And then my parents were the ones that actually found the recovery community for me. Like as soon as I started getting sober, they're like, hey, you should check this place out. And I show up and there's like a ton of students there that are like, oh, we're going through the same thing in this regard, this regard. And I was like, where have you guys been hiding? Like, where have you been? Like, I needed this, especially in the recovery community, you know. I was really scared. I showed up on my first day of, you know, being a member there and everything, and people just gave me their phone numbers and were like, hey, let's grab lunch, let's go do this, let's go do that. Like, if you ever need anything, just call me. Like, doesn't matter what time of day it is. It's been so fantastic because, you know, especially being in college, you know, I was worried, you know, what other college students are sober, you know, like you don't see them anywhere, like nobody really like talks about it and stuff like that. And then, you know, I go to the Roost, I go to the recovery community, and it's always people that are my age or around my age, like going through college, doing the steps, working, you know, through everything the same way I am. And, you know, the amount of just support and love, just like unconditionally from all of them. There's no judgment, there's no, oh goodness, like you did that. Like there's nothing like that going on. So just really trusting in the people there that like when they say that they're there for you and they want to help you, like they really mean it. Although, you know, like everything I went through was really rough and, you know, it's been a lot to work through. Like to get to the point I'm at today, like if I had to go through it again, I would. You know, I don't regret anything that I've been through or things that I've done because all it's done is, you know, taught me and shaped me into the person that I am now, where now I can look back and reflect and be like, thank God I'm not that person anymore, but like, you know, she needed to do what she was doing at the time for me to get to this place that I'm at. I'm an entirely different person. Like I see photos of myself from back then or videos on like, you know, like the Snapchat, like, oh, 2 years ago today, like I get those all the time and I'm like, I look back on like my old self and I don't hurt for her. You know, like I needed to go through the things that I needed to get where I am now, but I see that stuff and I'm like, wow, I'm like light years away from who I was at that point. It does get me very emotional because like when I like look at videos or photos of myself from back then, I'm like, I never thought I'd get to the point that I'm at now. Gross. Ugh. Ugh. Disgusting. Yeah, I just never thought like I'd make it to where I am now. Yeah, so when I just look at younger Rachel, I'm like, oh, you know, like she gets out of it.